Good morning, everyone. I'm glad to see so many people here today and so many faces that I recognize and so many new faces that I don't. Just wanted to, as Margaret said, give a bit of context and also a bit of reflection on what we've done so far. So the Housing Network of Ontario has, I think, done a lot since May of this year when we formed. We brought many of you here to the United Church at Bathurst College to sort of found the HNO and sort of get consensus on the declaration. And I'm very excited that over 140 organizations and several hundred individuals have endorsed that declaration and sort of provided that support from across the community, from across Ontario for those broad principles of what the government needs to do for a long-term affordable housing strategy. And I also want to take the time to thank all of you for the work that you've done in your communities, and that's sort of one of the reasons why we brought all of these wonderful folks here, so they're able to share the exciting work that they've done across the province, and maybe you can see the work that you've done in your cities and towns reflected in their work, and then also maybe get some new ideas about what you can do sort of moving forward and how we can build that political power and that political pressure and support for a long-term affordable housing strategy that actually addresses the needs in our community. So I just want to also say that there is a lot of work ahead of us, but there is a lot of progress that we made. You know, a lot of people in this room maybe haven't met each other before, but now are coming together, or they, through the last couple months, have realized that there is a lot of people working on housing, a lot of people with lived experience, a lot of allies out there who are willing to put in the work and put in that effort to get us the strategy that we need. One of the things, there's a few sort of significant, besides the strengthening of our network, there are a few significant things that we can point to the progress that we've made as advocates. I think inclusionary housing was one of the things that people talked about across Ontario in terms of something that needs to be included in the strategy, and that would entail making developers, when they're developing a community, or building new condos or new housing development, include a percentage of affordable housing within that mix. And we've seen an inclusionary housing private members bill put forward by the NDP that has passed second reading, and it's worth noting that the parliamentary assistant to Minister Watson, the Minister of Housing, was one of the people who voted in favor of that bill. So we do see that there is some political support out there for inclusionary housing. We hope that that moves forward and that's included in the long-term affordable housing strategy. Also, as Maloon said, there's Bill C-304, and that's a national thing, but it definitely was brought up in all the consultations that the federal government needs to be a partner and needs to get back in the housing business. And it's very important and exciting to note that Bill C-304 on the National Housing Strategy has passed second reading, it's gone to committee, and I know that there's some, I guess all the postcards are gone, but there will be more postcards there called Homelessness is Over. If you want it, please take those when more available and send them in, because we need to keep up that pressure so that that bill actually makes it past second reading into third reading, so that the federal government gets back into the housing business. And I'm glad that all of you were involved in that. So another thing that's telling of the progress that we've made is that the government, and we met with the Housing Network of Ontario, and our partners met with Minister Watson and his staff several weeks ago. We were invited to a stakeholder consultation representing, I guess, sort of the tenant advocate side. And there were quite a few different organizations that are involved in the network, including Voices from the Streets, the Advocacy Centre for Tenants Ontario, the Wellesley Institute, Campaign 2000, and a few others. They were invited to this meeting to sort of give some further input to the strategy. And it's telling that the government has started to use the language of the declaration, use the language that all of you are using in your communities when they start talking about what they've heard in the communities. And I just want to quote from them. They said, what we heard during the consultations was this, that the long-term affordable housing strategy needs to improve access to affordable housing and provide supports, programs, and protections to allow people to live with respect and dignity in their homes and thrive in their communities. So it's interesting, it's important to note that they have started using our language. They understand that that is important, but it's also important for us to recognize that just because they're using our language, the proof is in the pudding. The proof is in what they actually give us, not how they talk about what they're giving us. And so that's one of the reasons why we're here. We're here to get organized, to continue our work, to get stronger so that we can actually raise that profile. Because one of the troubling things that we did here when we met with Minister Watson is, while Thousands of people took part in the consultations, and I know that all of you did, and that's definitely one of the things that the Housing Network of Ontario spent the summer doing, was organizing and trying to get people out, and all of you did that as well in your own communities, is that even though there were so many people at those things and at those consultations and raising their voices, they've only received at that point 20 written submissions. So that's one of the things we're going to ask you to do when you leave this room, is to go home, even if just one-page letter saying, I'm from Thunder Bay, I'm from Owen Sound, and this is what you need to include in a long-term affordable housing strategy. And let's be clear that what we're asking for is not a long-term plan where all the money and all the funding comes in years 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10. When we mean long-term from the Housing Network of Ontario standpoint, we mean the funding starts now and it continues every single year through that long-term process, because we're not talking about a long-term plan that we wait for results. We're talking about a plan that actually addresses the needs in our communities, that speaks and specifically addresses the communities that have been historically disadvantaged so that they're not left out of any solution, and that deals with tenant incomes and the gap between tenant incomes and rising rents, that actually puts money into building new affordable homes and maintaining the ones that currently exist so they don't fall into the horrible state of disrepair that they are. We're talking about a plan that provides supports and protections for tenants and low-income people so they can access their homes and they can stay in those homes. And we're talking about a plan that has some way to measure progress so that we know after year one whether things have been done and whether enough is being done. So that's what we say when we say long-term plan. It starts now and it continues to the long term, because that's the only way that we're going to be able to address the housing crisis that we have in Ontario. So I just want to also say that part of the context and where we're at, the next sort of step besides the 31st deadline, which all of you I hope are going to submit submission to the long-term affordable housing strategy consultation before the end of the year, we have the budget coming up, and there are pre-budget consultations happening the week of January 25th in Niagara Falls, London, Dryden, North Bay, and Kingston, and then in Toronto, February 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. So really encourage you, we'll send an email to everyone who is here and to the rest of the Housing Network, reminding them to make those written submissions or to ask for a spot to depute and talk about the housing needs in the community and what needs to happen in the next budget as a down payment on that strategy. So that's sort of the context, that's the timeline, and I would just encourage you to reflect on the progress that we've made, because we have made progress. We have done a lot, and it's exciting work, and I'm glad that all of you here, but we do have a lot more to do, and I hope that this day is a way for us to get energized, for us to get excited, to see how our work in our community, in our town, in our city relates to all the other people who are doing that work, and how together, working together around that common goal, we can actually build that support across the province that results in a long-term affordable housing strategy that actually addresses the needs in our community. So I just want to, I guess, hand it over to Margaret to go on. Thanks.